The Holy Land is a fascinating place. And the stories told in the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke and John are now, of course, over 2,000 years old, and yet in many ways they're as modern as today's news stories. And this is so because they're the stories of largely ordinary people, with all their failures, successes, fears and hopes, but people whose lives were forever changed on the day that they met Jesus. So come with me now, back in time, to the streets, hills and homes where those events took place. Perhaps imagine that you are there. Leprosy was the cruelest of diseases. It began with a small spot on the skin and then gradually developed until sometimes the sufferer was just left with a stump of an arm or a leg. Imagine waiting for your community to decide whether or not you had that illness. On that decision rested whether or not you spent the rest of your life as an outcast, living outside the city walls, leaving home and family, hardly knowing whether you could give them one last hug. The leper was medically and socially unclean. And in fact, it was that very word they had to yell out as they walked along. Unclean, unclean. Knowing people were terrified of even touching, of becoming like him. And one day, Jesus had just finished teaching on the mountain. And he's walking down the road and suddenly he is face to face with a leper. What would he do? Turn away in embarrassment and fear? I wonder whether their eyes locked for a moment as the leper waited for Jesus' reaction. Only somebody in that man's position could truly understand the magnitude of what happened next. Perhaps it was the first time that man had felt human flesh in 20 years. I sometimes wonder if in the years ahead, as he told the story of what happened on the mountain road that day, he said, "The Master made me well, and he touched me."
A man with leprosy came and knelt before him and said,
"Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean."
Jesus reached out his hand and touched the man.
"I am willing.
He said,
Be clean."
Immediately he was cured of his leprosy. Then Jesus said to him,
"See that you don't tell anyone, but go show yourself to the priest and offer the gift Moses commanded as a testimony to them."
Just imagine it. Throughout the ages, there have always been people that society won't accept. In the 1980s, people with AIDS were ostracized, and today we still have societies across the world who shun certain people. In Jesus' time, those who had leprosy were made outcasts from society. This man who came to Jesus knew what fear was. The fear that the strange patch that had suddenly appeared on his body was leprosy. The fear that people would turn against him. And the fear of not only being sick, but being alone. I remember so well the moment when the Princess of Wales, Diana, sat on the bed of an AIDS patient and took his hand. The fact that Jesus touched this man was truly remarkable. In fact, the Gospel accounts, it says, Jesus reached out his hand and touched the man. It was no accidental brush of the hand, but an intentional, positive, and determined touch. This leper made a choice to reach out to Jesus, no matter how unclean or how untouchable he saw himself or society saw himself. We too today might feel that we have blown it just too many times, and Jesus cannot reach us where we are. And today we're in need of physical healing. We may be in need of emotional healing. Please reach out to Jesus and let him touch you. He is more than willing to meet you at your place of need this morning. Please remember, we all have value in the eyes of God, no matter what we've been through, no matter what we've been told. We do matter. That's why Jesus died on the cross for us. God sent his only Son because he loves us so much. There aren't words to explain just how much God loves us. We have to make a choice. We have to turn to Jesus. Please let him touch your life today, my life today. I don't know if it now did it.